Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Monday, July 25. Welcome along to a brand new week and episode 31 now here at Bray Park. And welcome along to you, Barry Fair and Mark English with you on this beautiful Monday morning compared to Friday. And I have some news to share with you all this morning, but I will tell you about that in a minute. Now, on Friday we demonstrated to you how to use a mask. So if you don't know how to use a mask, please refer to Friday's video. And joining me now in the studio, it's a very good morning to Mark English.
Thank you, Barry. And how was your weekend?
It was good, yes.
Well, your exciting news on Friday set it up beautifully, so I'm not surprised you had a good weekend.
So I will tell you about the exciting news in a moment. Well, on Saturday I went along to Kombucha House and I had a look there, and then went to Kombucha Sporting Complex, and I had a barbecue there. So what a good day it was there. Bit cloudy though, bit cold, bit windy. So to speak. And then on Sunday I went to a dog park just up here. And the dog licked my face, so to speak. So a very good Sunday morning, and then I came back and wrote a memoir on my experience with Bray Park. So a very good weekend indeed. So this week sees a meeting about how I'm going to get back to Sydney, and here's Mark to open the show with that and the phone call.
Yeah, so on Friday, you made a phone call where it was confirmed to you that there was going to be a meeting this week to discuss your move back to Sydney and explain to you what the supposed impediments would be, which is that you wouldn't be able to go back to where you were staying before, but go to a new facility not far away, and you actually prefer the new facility in the context of fewer people, and you think it's just going to be a better fit for you. So
yeah. So some very good news there compared to the bad news I got back in May and June of this year. But I will give you an update on that, more of an update on that shortly. Okay, so there are some pictures which I received, which I will show Mark today as well. But today is another beautiful day, as I said, and we're going to try and get out and enjoy it. Here's Mark.
yeah, so the plan is to head to Bray Park Station, get the train down into Brisbane, and essentially see where we end up by the looks of things. So hopefully we end up on a city cat and go on a bit of a cruise of the river. So that'd be very nice. And only time will tell whether it works out or not.
Well, only time will tell. So, I wonder if a naughty taxi will turn up. Probably not.
Well, we hope that as we need them to get from here to the station, it's an essential first step.
So, I'd like to tell you now how my Bray Park experience began. Well, it began here on the 6th of April. Well, it was supposed to begin on the 31st of March, but unfortunately I couldn't commence to stay here on that night. I won't go into detail about that, but it was not a good start. Here's Mark.
Well, to be honest, I don't know much about the early days here. That was before my time, and you have said that there were delays, but to be honest, I actually don't know myself what the impediments were.
So, to cut the long story short, which I don't want to talk about on the show, a very disastrous start. But that is all behind me now. Okay, and I am looking forward to the next step in my life. Okay, so we are moving off March, April, May, June. So that's 4 months gone. Okay. So I've even written a story about how Bray Park went or had gone. So, just recapping last week's show where we went to New Farm Park. So that video is up there for you right now. Here's Mark.
Yes, we had a very enjoyable day in the park. It was a beautiful day to be out and about. And apart from our usual issue with taxis, we had a beautiful day. The park was a great venue and gave us a lot of accessibility and space, and was very easy to use. So it was a great destination.
So we are hoping to get the train into Brisbane today and do a video of the Brisbane River for you. So stay tuned for that. Here's Mark.
Yes, I'm looking forward to being able to take you on the City Cat. It is one of my absolutely preferred ways to travel in Brisbane. It's just such a beautiful, easy and scenic way to go about travelling. It doesn't feel like you're commuting at all. It feels like you're on holidays, taking a scenic tour somewhere.
So we will work out how we are going to get there and what time the first train is. So, just going back over what happened on Friday, okay, it was a very exciting end to the week for me, and here's Mark.
Yes, you were very excited once you got the phone call, or actually you made the phone call, and you were filled in on where the, I suppose, plan is with getting you back to Sydney. And I think it was actually further progressed than you thought it might be. So the fact that they had, a plan for accommodation for you, and they were talking absolutely positively about you moving back, I think was better news than you were expecting.
Yeah, so watch this space, ladies and gentlemen. Watch this space. So I have really enjoyed the time here. You've got 3 months of my company to go, and how many days is that?
Near enough, let's say 90.
90 days. So very exciting news. So what an exciting end to episode 30 and the start of episode 31.
Yes.
So it is amazing it is amazing how far I have gone with my shows. Here's Mark now.
Yes, well, you've been prolific. And, well, I'd actually seen your shows before I met you. So, but to be honest, I don't know how many you've done. And having the knowledge now that you're up to episode 31 since you got to Bray Park is very extensive.
So we're going to take a break now, and I will show Mark the pictures. Then we will come back.
Excellent.
See you after the break. Unfortunately, we couldn't bring you our train adventure today. But just to give you an update on what's happening, okay, with Sydney, okay, it is still happening. Here's Mark now. Good afternoon to you. Welcome to the second part of our show.
Thanks, Barry, and good afternoon to you too. Yes, since the last instalment, you've made another phone call and got a few more details. So it absolutely all looks like good news and moving ahead.
And like on the 20th, on episode 20, when I thought everything was going to plan, when it wasn't. Here's Mark now.
Yes, I do recall that you thought that you were heading back to Sydney, only to be told after that time that it wasn't going to happen. And since then, obviously, there has been a reassessment, which means that it is going to happen.
And like with the pictures that I showed Mark earlier on, there is some proof there. Here
Yes.
it is.
Oh, absolutely. Not only does the email have a statement saying that there will be a position vacant, but sent you pictures of the house, the address, etc. So it does sound as though they'd made good progress finding you a spot.
So today we're going to focus on, okay, the mask again. Now, during past COVID times, it is important to wear a mask anyway, even in a taxi. Here's Mark now.
Yes, well, they were mandated in the past, and in theory, certainly state government public transport is still supposedly there is a mask mandate which requires a mask to be worn on public transport. and in health facilities. So, unfortunately, the desire to mask up has been what's the word I'm looking for? Well, it's been diminished by the length of time that it's been going on, and unfortunately, the new wave is outpacing anything we've had before, and we've become a bit anti-mask.
But not Mark and I.
It is important, particularly for us either being compromised or working with people who are compromised, that absolutely we should be doing everything we can to protect both ourselves and each other. So, yes, certainly when we're out in public, we definitely wear masks.
Okay, and the choice is up to you. We're going to give you a demonstration now on how a mask is worn for those of you that missed the show on Friday.
All right, well, we have one version of a mask here, obviously.
But that's a dirty mask. We must get a clean one.
I'll demo it. All right. So,
We will throw the dirty one in the bin.
all right.
We don't catch germs.
So, they all have a top and a bottom, and I suppose at least with these, it's a bit more obvious which way you're meant to wear them. In other words, front to back or back to front. And with these, there is only one way. As you can see, they come folded. This is the top flap. You pull it up. The bottom flap, which needs to be pulled out, and always give it a tug in the middle to give it a bit of height for the nose before you try and use it, because if you don't have it up, it becomes a lot harder to shape the mask after you're trying to put it on. And then obviously it has the ear hooks elasticized, so for Barry, it's just a matter of holding the mask open and putting it on, making sure to get the bottom under Barry's chin and the top on his nose, where I immediately give it a pinch to shape it, and then use the loops to secure the mask in place, and then make sure Barry's comfortable. And as you can see, it's under his chin, above his nose, so all of the vital areas have been covered, and that should stay there. The obvious issue with all masks are that as long as you don't speak, they tend to sit rather nicely. As soon as you speak, the bottom wants to pull the top, etc., and they want to move. So it's just a matter of making sure that when you re-handle them, you should handle it by the top part to just adjust where you want it to be. And obviously, if this bit pulls back and goes above Barry's chin, then it needs to be flapped out again so that it can come back under. It's not ideal to be handling masks, but under the circumstances, it's not possible for Barry to get his own on, and so that's the way that I go about it, but I'm sure there are many other ways to skin a cat.
Okay.
Would you like me to take it off for you, Barry?
No, because we are about to get in a cab.
All right. Well, if you're ready then.
So, before we get out of the studio today, always be prepared to isolate if you do happen to catch COVID. Here's Mark.
Yes, no one expects it to happen, but certainly it does help to have a plan and have a phone a friend contact that can either drop things at your door for you or run errands on your behalf. But you will need some kind of help unless you've planned it to the nth degree and you do have at least a week's worth of food in the house, etc., 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 and all of the things that you're going to need for the week. But absolutely, you should have a plan for if it happens to you, who's going to do those extra chores for you if you're not going to be able to leave the house, and how are you going to manage it?
It is always important to have a testing kit, okay, ready in case somebody does catch COVID. Here's Mark.
Yeah, it's very handy to have a rat test at home, so that if you do think that you've got symptoms and need to check, you're not going out mingling with other people to buy the rat test. So better to have one ready to go in your home for the potential need, rather than wait until you do need it and then have to go and mingle with others at a time when you probably shouldn't be out there.
So you may remember on episode 21, which we um, brought to you a month ago in June on the 14th. I was coughing, spluttering and sneezing. Here's Mark.
Yes. So, well, you did have a mask, but it was obvious that you were unwell, and obviously by that point in time you already had COVID. So the mask on that particular occasion was obviously going to be more about you not spreading it rather than you not picking it up. So either way, the mask was important to use, and I'm sure that, as we both know, you tested positive and I had been in your company all day and I didn't catch COVID. So obviously the masking was all that was required to protect me, and it wasn't until weeks after you caught COVID and I actually had not seen you in the meantime I caught COVID. So obviously from somewhere else.
So it is very, very important, guys, to really be prepared to isolate. Okay, because although you may feel fine, but don't jinx yourself. Here's Mark.
Yes. Forward planning is not an exercise in a self-fulfilling prophecy. It doesn't mean that you will catch COVID, but planning for the potential, particularly in the current environment, would be much more beneficial than not planning for it.
So if you know that you've got COVID, stay home, guys. Here's Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nasty enough with obviously the modes of transmission that is helping spread the disease now without people knowingly going out into the community with COVID or knowingly being sick and not testing because they don't want to know.
Because here is how my COVID started. Okay? Like I said on episode 21, which we brought to you in June. Okay? I was coughing at the start of the show. Alright? And even when we were bringing the show to you. Here's Mark.
Yes, and you did go downhill quickly during the day. You weren't too bad at the start of the day, but certainly by 4 o'clock, you looked like a man that was ready to spend a week in bed.
And I can tell you, I was ready for bed that night after I tested positive. So 6 o'clock, straight out of the chair, straight into bed. Here's Mark.
Yes, I'm not surprised, Barry. Well, we had a big day as well, and it was a frustrating day on top of that. And so there'd been a few issues with transport, and you were absolutely just going downhill visibly. So it wasn't surprising to me when the phone call came to say that you tested positive. I knew something was wrong.
So if you know you've got COVID, guys, cancel any plans that you've made. Here's Mark.
Yes, well, I know that after I had my close contact isolation week, and then I was back at work for a week, and then I got COVID, so I was off work again, and COVID's been highly disruptive of late and has made it much more difficult to plan. And I gave it to the family, so I spread the joy as well. So it was bad time all round having COVID, to be honest.
Well, we're going to take a break and continue our show at the shopping centre. So, why don't you come on and journey with us?
See you there.
See you there. Well, good afternoon and welcome back to our show. Well, we're at Southpine now, and I've just finished my shopping, and here's Mark.
Yeah, so it was a quick trip today, just a bit of banking and shopping. So we haven't come far, and but we have the same old issues.
With the cabs, will they get us to where we want to go? No. Here's Mark now.
Well, if they turn up, they get us there. But getting one to turn up seems to be the biggest issue. And unfortunately, automated systems don't work well when they can't find you a taxi for hours.
Unfortunately, that's how it is. So today we've been talking about wearing a mask. Now, as you can see, Mark and I are wearing a mask. And why? Because they are compulsory. Here's Mark now.
Well, there's still a mandate on public transport and in health facilities, but it has been lifted for the rest of it. So at the moment, it's only when we're in the taxi in theory, and oddly enough, if you go into a shopping centre, you don't have to wear your mask until you get into the chemist, and then you've got to wear a mask when you go to the chemist, or when you go to the doctor, obviously. So anything that is deemed medical or public transport requires a mask.
So even though Mark and I have had COVID, it is very important to adhere to the rules. Here's Mark.
Yes, technically we're still in our post-COVID don't need to test phase, but just in the spirit of doing the right thing, it's much easier to wear a mask on all occasions when it's mandated, rather than saying, well, I don't need one for the next month because I've had COVID. So always better to wear it if you can.
So be safe, guys. Sanitize and wear a mask. And like I said earlier on the show today, if you've got COVID symptoms, guys, please stay home. Here's Mark now.
Yes, take the opportunity to stay home and enjoy yourselves in the absence of being forced to go out for other reasons. So I suppose, as we said earlier, make sure that you are set up so that if the worst happens, that you're covered for a few days, and think about what's going to entertain you under the circumstances, because you probably won't feel too good.
So what is the COVID? What is COVID? Well, as I've said on episode 21, okay, you get a sore throat, a runny nose, and all of that. Here's Mark.
Yeah, so, well, actually, there are so many variants out there now. It's worth looking up what the symptoms are, because there's obviously the respiratory symptoms of runny nose, cough, sore throat. There's also headaches and gastrointestinal symptoms as well. So it can cause diarrhea, vomiting, and these weren't routinely reported in the early days, but it's certainly become a much more common observation that people do have gastrointestinal issues as well as respiratory issues.
Excuse me. And like I said, if you do get COVID, guys, please be prepared for it. Here's Mark.
Yes, just a little bit of forward planning, just in case the worst happens and you are stuck at home. It can, particularly if you're on your own, or you know the person that you're with is meant to be doing a close contact isolation as well. It's very difficult to get out there and do anything as far as shopping, etc. is concerned. So better to have a little bit of reserve. Don't need to have 6 months worth, obviously, but just a little bit of reserve so you're not left short if the worst does happen.
So it is better to be safe. Guys, we know it sometimes is very inconvenient, but you've got to play it safe. Here's Mark.
Yeah, it's really just looking after yourself will in fact look after everyone else. So think of it as just looking after yourself, and it'll stand everybody else in good stead as well.
So don't take your anger out on someone else when you've been taken to Wi-Fi, guys. Here's Mark.
Yes, it's another theme that we've explored in the past, and it serves no purpose to project a bad mood or a bad circumstance onto people who aren't involved. It doesn't serve a purpose for you, and it, quite frankly, is rude to the other people that get treated badly because you're in a bad mood.
So if you've got a problem with your isolation, guys, or any concern, talk to your family members. I know even with me when I was in COVID, okay, I was very frustrated during this time. Here's Mark now.
Yes, it's one thing to be frustrated and understand the circumstances. It's another thing to get angry because you're frustrated. So as Barry says, don't let that frustration project out as anger and affect all of the relationships around you.
Because it is not right to take your anger out on someone else because you've been told to Wi-Fi. Here's Mark now.
Yes, just to reiterate what Barry said, it isn't fair to treat other people badly because you're in a bad mood, and it doesn't help that they usually don't know why. So it's very hard to ask forgiveness when you've just been rude because you feel like it.
And sometimes saying sorry doesn't always cut the cake. Here's Martin.
No, a bit of pre-thought to avoid the situation is much better than having to rely on somebody accepting your apology, because there are times when it probably shouldn't be accepted.
Because you can't just say, oh, I don't care about the consequences. Because if you go out when you've got COVID, you could spread it to everyone else. Here's Mark now.
Well, it's the basic premise of why we're in the situation we're in, is the spread of COVID. It has obviously had a very significant impact on us on many levels, and maybe now's the time to wake up and say, oh yeah, I probably should just do the right thing.
Because it is important, guys. Well, the last thing we're going to talk about on the show is being prepared for a shopping trip. Well, being prepared for a shopping trip. Right out of shopping trip. Here's Mark.
Well, it is easier if you have a list of what you want. If you're like me and you write out the shopping list and then you get to the shops and think, oh, yeah, and that, and that, and that, and then I get in the car and think, oh, I needed this too. but it wasn't on the list, and it didn't pop into my head while I was there. So if I kept an extensive shopping list, it'd be a very good example for me. Of course, my trouble is I can't remember what I've done with the list.
So it's no good coming to the shop and not remembering what you needed to buy. So before you go shopping, have a look at what is in your cupboards first. Here's Mark.
I have to admit, if I really need to remember something, I have to record it in my phone, because I'm more than likely going to have my phone with me, regardless of whether I remember the list or not, and at least then I can just refer to the list that's in my phone. So either a photo of a list or make the list in notes.
So, compromise is going to buy what at the shops as well. Here's Mark.
I missed that.
If you've got someone with you at the shops, compromise. Here is Mark.
So I think that's it's not all about me aspect of life in general, but if you're shopping with other people, then obviously they're going to want to go to different parts of the shop, etc. to you, potentially. So it's just a matter of recognising that you're all there to do the same thing and being patient with each other to make sure that you're not trying to dictate to others how they should be spending their time with you.
And your phone. So as we were saying, compromise when you go shopping, because it is important, guys, okay? And work out where you're going to meet at the end of the shopping expedition. Here's Mark.
Well, I rarely go shopping in groups, I have to say. So, but what Barry says, very important about any group doing anything anywhere, is that people need to be aware of where you're going, with whom, and for how long, just so that groups can coordinate their movements. If you just take off from a group and they all have to sit around and wait for you, that is exceedingly frustrating for all those that are waiting, and probably not well received.
And shopping centres, guys, are really big places, so work out where you're going to go, okay? And have your mobile phone on as well, and send the text to the person who you are with, tell them where you are and what your movements are, and etc. Arrange a meeting point. Here's Mark.
Yep, so if you do all of that, there'll never be any issues. Of course, in the absence of mobile phones, having a set time and meeting point is the other good option, but everything else will usually end in chaos.
Sometimes there's a bit of frustration when the person has been found, because of the way it's set. Here's Mark.
Yes, one of the most devastating things for people is if they are actually worried about you, because they're not sure where you are and what you're doing, then it becomes very emotional. So it's just about being mindful of others, and that a little bit of communication removes a heck of a lot of anxiety.
because for all units they know could have fallen over somewhere or something may have happened. Here's Mark.
Yeah, so it's not knowing. As Barry said, anything could have happened. You probably just lost track of time and engrossed in whatever it is that you're shopping for. But for someone that's waiting for you and wondering what's going on, that's not a very good reason for just not showing up somewhere when you say you're going to.
So this is where we like to bring this important part of the show to you. You are responsible for your actions. Here's Mark.
Yes, and you're also responsible for the communication that lets people around you know what's going on. And I've often found it helps to make sure that if you're trying to communicate something specific, that you have to check on the understanding of what you've just communicated, because the number of times that people think they've been heard or understood but have not is extraordinary.
So guys, be responsible when you are out and about shopping and if you are lost, ask the security guy or woman to direct you to where you've got to go. And there are signs at the shopping center. Here's Mark.
So I think virtually anyone that's working in any of the shops in a shopping centre should be able to direct you to where you need to be, hopefully. Of course, some of them are so massive that I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people didn't know all of the other shops that are in the complex. So still best to pre-plan rather than hope for the best after the fact.
Well, that brings to an end our shopping expedition in Stratford. Please join us back at the studio and we'll see you there.
See you there.
See you there, guys. Bye.
Well, we've just returned from Strathpine, guys, and had a lovely afternoon there. I brought some stuff today and just going over what we've discussed. Here's Mark.
Yeah, so basically today it was the importance of wearing a mask when you're out in public and effectively just doing the right thing by other people.
And also having a list with you when you go shopping and all that. Here's Mark.
Well, it certainly makes it a lot easier if you've got a list. And in theory, you don't forget things. But I have to admit, when it comes to this, I can hardly put my hand up and be an advocate because I either forget to put things on the list or I forget the list. So they're not ideal for me.
So also today we talked about my good news. Here's Mark.
Your very good news, which is that you've got approval and, by the sounds of it, funding as well for your move back to New South Wales. And I suppose more importantly, somewhere to live when you get there.
Well, you saw the pictures on where I was going to live. Here's Mark.
Yep, beautiful house. And the facilities look fantastic. So given that it's a beautiful spot too, lovely part of the world, I'm sure that it'll be absolutely beautiful. and it's an area that you know, with people that you know, and close to more people that you know. So it'll be a very social setting for you, that's for sure.
Well, we've had a great Monday today, as usual. Thank you to everyone for tuning in, and Mark and I look forward to your company next Monday. But then after that, Mark is away, so I don't know who will be doing the show with me then. So you've been watching episode 31 today, episode 32 coming up very shortly. So stay tuned for that. And the number that we rely on 24 hours a day, you know what it is. I close the show with this important message every time. 000, please do not ring that number unless it's absolutely necessary. Here's Mark for his closing message on this.
Very important to remember for the safety of everyone, as well as the workers. Please don't abuse 000. It has a very specific set of purposes for ambulance, fire, and police services, and that's it. If you don't need them urgently, please don't use the number.
Because the wrong call that you make to 000 could cost someone like me or Mark or anybody in the house their life. Here he is.
Well, you've had first-hand recent experience of emergency services in the house, and you know that you needed them immediately. And as luck would have it, under the circumstances, that's what you got. And it was an example of how they should be used, and they responded immediately. So that's exactly what they're for.
So until we see you next Monday at 10 o'clock, thanks for your company today on episode 31. And here's Mark for his farewell now.
Thank you for tuning in, and look forward to next week. Always a surprise. So have a safe week and enjoy.
And enjoy, and I will see you tomorrow. So until then, bye-bye.
Bye.